Ahoy, Namalita, and this is my channel, The Midnight Librarian. Today I will be talking about my July book haul. So hopefully after this month, my book hauls will be smaller. So I've talked about before how book buying is definitely a separate hobby than book reading, and it is like a form of therapy for me, and I need to get it under control because I really shouldn't be buying more books than I'm reading every month. So I was trying to figure out what to do about it in terms of like, oh, if I read this many books, I can buy this many books, and really that doesn't make sense, because if anything, I'm either breaking even or it's I'm buying more than I should be. So for the month of July, if you've seen my wrap up, I read 10 books, and I believe only 5 of them were from my TBR originally fulfilled my TBR, and even only that, 3 of those were ones that I had officially put on my TBR. The other 2 I switched out. So my plan going forward is that when doing my Pokemon Cards Choose My TBR episodes, that whatever books I have officially in there, that is whatever I put up on YouTube, that is my official TBR. At my wrap up, you'll find, I'll know the whole month, but you'll find how many books I actually stuck with my TBR. If I stick with the books that I have put for those prompts, for those Pokemon prompts, then that's how many books I can actually buy. If I switch out any of the prompt or any of the books to fit a prompt, I can buy a backlist book because they're cheaper. Mostly I'm trying to get my budget in hand because it's becoming ridiculous. I should not be spending that much money on books. So for instance, the month of July, I, like I said, read 10 books, 5 of which fulfilled 5 of my Pokemon card prompts. 3 were officially on my TBR for the month, so they were put out in my July TBR. 2 of them I switched out by the end, and so total I pre-ordered 3 books that I'm most anticipating for August, and I ordered 2 backlist books that tend to be cheaper. So yeah, hopefully, still not counting book of the month. That's just I'm still just kind of, I don't know, I'm still figuring it out. But for that, I think that's good. 5 plus the book of the month books, which I believe I have 2 coming, so 7 for the month of August. That's it. I'm not allowed to do anything else. I know I can't fully ban myself from buying books, but to get a better handle on it. So I had to also order a new bookshelf. So in all reality, that should have counted, and I'm not allowed to buy any more books for the month of August. So we'll see how well that goes. But for the month of July, these are the books that I bought. They're in no particular order because things are still hectic right now. I need to get everything organized, and it's one of those things where I am just not motivated. So I guess since it's right here, the first one I have is What Moves the Dead. I do have the physical book, but I am currently reading it still. It's still taking me forever. Not that it's a bad book by any means. This is a retelling of The Fall of House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. This is by T. Kingfisher, and ultimately we are following a veteran, and they got word that a childhood friend is ill, so they go to the House of Usher, where they find that the house is in decay. The animals around the house are acting real weird. There's a lake near the house that also acts real weird. Doesn't act like any lake that they've ever seen, and they find that their childhood friend Madeline is on like the brink of death. as well as her brother, is also acting odd. And so with the help of a local mycologist as well as a doctor that they bring in, this veteran is trying to figure out what's going on. It's a relatively short book. So far I am really liking it. Particularly, I absolutely love the cover, as well as I don't know if this is I don't think this is a spoiler really, but if like, I don't know, you don't want to be surprised for it. I love the end pages, and that's what I'm about to show you. These are just absolutely adorable. I love these dark illustrations. So yeah. This is the Literally Dead Book Club pick for the month of August. I thought it was the month of July, and I think I put that in my July TBR. It's not, it's August, which is fine, which makes more sense to me, because basically as soon as I got this in the month of July, I'm like, oh, I need to read it, because I thought it was for the month of July, but it's for the month of August, so I'm still reading it. I got a children's book that is called What's My Superpower. This is by, I'm going to pronounce this wrong and I apologize, by Aviak Johnston and illustrated by Tim Mack. This is following Nelvana. Feels like all of her friends have some type of superpower. She has friends with super speed who always beat her in races, friends with super skills who can build all kinds of things, and friends who are better than she is at a million other things. Nelvana thinks she must be the only kid without a superpower. Then her mom shows Nelvana that she is unique and special, and that her superpower was right in front of her all along. I've had this on my wishlist on bookshop.org for a while, and I finally was like, you know what, I want to get it. I have yet to read it, but the illustrations look absolutely adorable, and also was something that I felt like I could relate to. I know that in particular, it wasn't until like high school that I wanted to be unique. I wanted to be different, and I thought that meant cutting my hair and dyeing it blue, which my mom wouldn't allow me to do unless I paid for it myself. And of course, as a high schooler, I had no money to do that. But like, I wanted to be unique, and I couldn't figure out what made me unique. And my mom ended up telling me, like, I am unique because I am a part of a 1% population within California that is Native American. So I am the thriving embodiment of our culture that is still thriving, that has survived colonization and settler genocide. So, and of course at the time I kind of just rolled my eyes because it was something that she had been telling me for years, and today I'm more appreciative of it. So yeah, I thought this would be a really cute book to just kind of reflect upon that, as well as maybe like be a good gift for my niece. I do prefer to read all the books before actually gifting them to my niece. Next I have a horror book that was most anticipated, released for the month of July, and that was Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. This is on my August TBR as well. I absolutely I love this color and this cover. There's not much. I like the foiling, and that's the same color. But yeah, this is a sapphic horror where we are Leah has changed, a marine biologist. She left for a routine expedition months earlier, only this time her submarine sank to the sea floor. When she surfaces and returns home, her wife Miri knows that something is wrong. Barely eating and lost in her thoughts, Leah rotates between rooms in their apartments, running the taps morning and night. Whatever happened in that vessel, whatever that crew was supposed to be studying before they were stranded, Leah has carried part of it with her. So yeah, I'm real excited for this. I think this was in my most anticipated part 2 video, so I'll link that above as well as down below if you want to check that out. The next, I finally just went ahead and bought it. I was feeling some FOMO from people reading this recently, and it sounds really good, and I'm very curious about it, particularly because I'm currently reading T. Kingfisher, and I'm curious. From what I understand, a lot of their backlist items are good reads as well, so I ended up picking up Nettle and Bone, the UK edition, so I prefer this cover over the US cover. However, I think the US edition has that foil dog on the cover, and this one doesn't, which I think it's a dog skeleton or something, which I'm like really disappointed by, but I really don't like that. I don't like the US cover. So, which, I mean, it's fine. I love this cover. So, from what I understand, I don't know what this is about really. I keep hearing people talk about it, but I can't remember what it's called or what it's about really. This isn't a fairy tale where the princess marries a prince. This is the one where she kills him. Oh, I think I very vaguely remember. I think it's like, okay, let me just read it to you. After years of seeing her sister suffer at the hands of an abusive prince, Mara, the shy convent-raised third-born daughter, has finally realized that no one is coming to their rescue. No one except for Mara herself. Seeking help from a powerful grave witch, Mara is offered the tools to kill a prince if she can complete 3 impossible tasks. But as is the way in the tales of princes, witches, and daughters, the impossible is only the beginning. So that's all I'm going to read of that. I'm fairly intrigued. So far I'm liking T. Kingfisher's writing style in What Moves the Dead, and yeah, I'm curious to see how I'll like more of their works. So this one is another children's book, I believe, but I think it's more of a picture book from what I understand. I briefly flipped through it. It doesn't have any words, but I absolutely fell in love with this cover, and that is The Depth of the Lake and the Height of the Sky by Jim Jiun. And the back says, a child from the city discovers winding forest paths, a crystal clear lake, and the endless starry sky in this wordless celebration of the wonder of nature. So I think this will be fun. I also got this fun and interesting. I love this cover. I think it's the fact that it's wordless makes me think of The Wanderer, which is a picture book that follows a little paper boat that travels all across the ocean, and it has beautiful, beautiful illustrations. So try not to spoil myself by looking through it. I hope to get to it eventually. So, and then I have my Book of the Month books. I chose Upgrade by Blake Crouch. I've read Blake Crouch before. I can't remember what it was called. Recursion. I read Recursion back in 2021. Absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite books of the year. This is a new book from him, and it sounded interesting. I haven't read any of the other works by Blake Crouch. But this one, you are the next step in human evolution. At first, Logan Ramsey isn't sure if anything's different. He just feels a little sharper, better able to concentrate, better at multitasking, reading a bit faster, memorizing better, needing less sleep. But before long, he can't deny it. Something's happening to his brain, to his body. He's starting to see the world and those around him, even those he loves most, in a whole new way. The truth is, Logan's genome has been hacked, and there's a reason he's been targeted for this upgrade, a reason that goes back decades to the darkest part of his past and a horrific family legacy. So that's what I'm going to read because that's all I really want to know. I'm fairly curious about this. I'm not as intrigued by the cover, but it seems like a lot of Blake Crouch's covers are kind of this minimalist style, because he very much has scientific sci-fi, yeah, very much sci-fi, minimalistic sci-fi stuff. Another one that I got from Book of the Month, that was a bonus book that I've been wanting to read because also feeling FOMO for it as well, but I also keep hearing good things, is Keeper of the Night by Kylie Lee Baker. I was interested in this, but I was hesitant to pick it up because I'm not the biggest fan of this illustration. Art is objective. If you like it, then good for you. It's just not something that I'm particularly struck by. But we are following half Japanese Reaper, half Japanese Shinigami Ren Scarborough, who has been collecting souls in the London streets for centuries, expected to obey the harsh hierarchy of the Reapers, who despise her due to her mysterious mother. Even more mysterious Shinigami powers, Ren conceals her emotions and avoids her tormentors as best she can. When her failure to control her developing Shinigami abilities drives Ren out of London, she flees to Japan in search of the acceptance she's never gotten and from her fellow Reapers. Accompanied by her younger brother, the only being on Earth to care for her, Ren enters Yomi, the Japanese underworld, to serve the goddess of death, only to learn that here too she must prove herself worthy. So it sounds really cool. I enjoy fantasy, particularly that has to do with the underworld or afterlife. This very much gives me Ghost Bride meets. It's like, for some reason, it's like I'm thinking Ghost Bride, I'm thinking Lore of Olympus, as well. I don't know, just various different things. So I'm curious about this one. I mean, I'm curious about all of them, obviously. I got them. Next is another horror. I've been very much in the horror vibe since Summerween, which is great because I'm sometimes the thematic readathons or reading that I would like to do doesn't always match my mood, and so far horror has been one that has stuck with me since Summerween. So I bought quite a bit of horror in July. The next one is also was a pre-order that I had also most anticipated for. I believe it's also in my part 2 of my most anticipated releases for this year, and that is Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. I had read Sarah Gailey earlier this year. It was When We Were Magic, and enjoyed the writing style but didn't so much enjoy the book itself, and was fairly curious about this book in general because one, it's a fascinating cover. This actually could have easily fit for one of my prompts for the magical readathon, but I digress. Not enough pink covers, in my opinion. Pink is definitely one of those eye-catching covers. So this one, from what I understand, we are following Vera, whose mother calls her home, and Vera obeys. In spite of their long estrangement, in spite of the memory, she's come back to the home of the serial killer, back to face the love she had for her father and the bodies he buried there. Coming home is hard enough for Vera, and to make things worse, she and her mother aren't alone. A parasitic artist has moved into the guest house back and is slowly stripping Vera's childhood for spare parts. He insists that he isn't the one leaving notes around the house in her father's handwriting, but who else could it possibly be? So, yeah. This one is also a horror, and I had stumbled upon it. I don't believe it's a new release. No, it has been, so it was released but here in 2022, but it was released back at the end of May, and I kind of stumbled across it in when browsing through bookshop.org, so I was really excited about it because I had just read Hide, which was a disappointment, and I'm fairly curious about this one, and that is Black Tide by Casey Jones. This one says says perfect fans for The Quiet Place in Cujo. I have watched The Quiet Place. I have not read or watched Cujo. Not the biggest Stephen King fan, though I can't say I've read a whole lot of his, but I enjoyed The Quiet Place as much as I never want to watch it again, and possibly I'm very surprised that I didn't damage my ears during that show or during that movie. I am not good with horror movies whatsoever, but apparently horror books is where I am at right now, and something that I can consume despite the nightmares. So this one says, it was just another day at the beach, then the world ended. Mike and Beth were strangers before the night of the meteor shower. Chance made them neighbors. A bottle of champagne brought them together, and a shared need for human connection sparked something more. Following their drunken and desperate one-night stand, the two discover the astronomical event has left widespread destruction in its wake, but the cosmic light show was only part of something much bigger and far more terrifying. When a lost car key leaves them stranded on an empty stretch of Oregon coast, and inhuman screams echo from the dunes. when the rising tide reaches their car and unspeakable horrors close in around them, these two self-destructive souls must fight to survive a nightmare of apocalyptic scale. Yeah. So, and particularly, that was one thing with Hyde that I had appreciated was, despite how little it was done and could have been done more, was the quiet place feeling I had throughout it. This like be quiet as possible anticipation of something like looking for you. I enjoy, I'm fine. That's one thing it had, like just the briefest moment of that in Hyde, and I really did enjoy it, and I want more of it, so I'm hoping that this will bring that, and it's possible that I may be buddy reading this with someone, but we'll see. We're still figuring it out. Next, I have This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mutar and Max Gladstone. So I have read this already. I read this via audiobook back in, must have been May or June. Must have been May. I listened to it towards the end of May. I think it was like Memorial Day weekend, and because I remember I was in Hoopa for a ceremony, and then really enjoyed it, wanted the soft cover, and so purchased it in June, and it arrived to me like, I got it, essentially. I got it. So this is a science fiction, and we're following two women. This is science fiction, sapphic science fiction. We are following two time travelers of sorts that work for two different factions who are fighting in the same war, red and blue. They start communicating with each other, but not within normal circumstances because they can't be caught. So it's like these really intricate messages and like really strange ways that are happening, and it's like, it's so interesting to follow. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the imagery that was in here, like having a message be written in the rings of a tree once you cut it, or having a bee dance out a message for you, and then having the postscript within its bee sting. Just these, so I loved it so much, and so I wanted a physical copy because I really did enjoy it. This one, I believe, is a short story collection by Nalo Hopkinson, and that is Skinfolk, winner of the World Fantasy Award. I also enjoy this cover, but in Skinfolk, with 15 works ranging from science fiction to Caribbean folklore, passionate love to chilling horror, Nalo Hopkinson is at her award-winning best, spinning tales like Prochoice, in which the narrator spews valuable coins and gems from her mouth whenever she attempts to talk or sing. In a habit of waste, a self-conscious woman undergoes elective surgery to alter her appearance. Days later, she's shocked to see her former body climbing onto a public bus. In the glass bottle trick, the young protagonist ignores her intuition regarding her new husband's superstitions to horrifying consequences. So, yeah, this sounded really fun. It was another one that was like on my bookshop.org wish list that I was like, you know what, I want a physical copy finally, so I ordered it. And finally, this one was another one that I had stumbled across on bookshop.org. That tends to be where I purchase most of my books, if not all of them, aside from Book of the Month, just because I prefer their services over Amazon. I mean, and I'm already using Lero, which is connected to bookshop.org, so yeah, just a better alternative, really. Yeah, it's a little more expensive and it takes a little longer to get to me, but I mean, I'm gonna be, not like I read these right away, so but yeah, I just came across this one, and it seems like something that's relevant, like has been relevant, and it's yeah, something that I would be interested in, and that is Reproductive Justice: The Politics of Healthcare for Native American Women by Barbara Gurr. and reproductive justice sociologist, Barbara Gurr provides the first book-length analysis of Native American women's reproductive health care and offers a sustained consideration of the movement for reproductive justice in the United States. The book examines reproductive health care experiences on Pine Ridge Reservation, home of the Oglala Lakota Nation in South Dakota. Gurr paints an insightful portrait of the Indian Healthcare Service, IHS, the federal agencies tasked with providing culturally appropriate, adequate health care to Native Americans, shedding much needed light on Native American women's efforts to obtain prenatal care, access to contraception, abortion services, and access to care after sexual assault. Reproductive justice goes beyond this local story to look more broadly at how race, gender, sexuality, sex, class, and nation inform the ways in which the government understands reproductive health care and organizes the delivery of this care. It reveals why the basic experience of reproductive health care for most Americans is so different and better than for Native American women in general, and women in reservation communities particularly. Finally, Gurr outlines the strengths that these communities can bring to the creation of their own reproductive service or reproductive justice, and considers the role of IHS in fostering these strengths as it moves forward in partnership with Native nations. Reproductive justice offers a respectful and informed analysis of the stories Native American women have to tell about their bodies, their lives, and their communities. I don't know if Barbara Gurr is Indigenous, but I am curious overall about this because just because I am only aware of IHS from what I've experienced myself, which to say it's not the worst by any means, in my opinion, but it's not the best either, particularly in a rural area where most people have a hard time trying to get into a regular doctor. When, yes, I don't have to pay necessarily for my health care, but there's also a high turnover rate as well as a wait of over 3 months to be able to get in. So I don't know. That's just my experience with it so far. I have heard other horror stories from people in my community as well as across the US and Canada, but I don't really know much about the IHS care system in general outside of that. So I thought this was really going to be a heavy read, but something that is needed, particularly now that Roe versus Wade was overturned and people are starting to look at like Indigenous communities like, oh hey, like make abortion clinics, and it's like, are you freaking serious? So these are the books that I have purchased in the month of July. Like I said, hopefully August will be smaller. If that's the case, I probably won't do one for August. I'll probably wait a couple months and do it like I do with my most anticipated and kind of do it collectively within 3 months. So yeah, or I guess quarterly. If you have read any of these, let me know. I'm curious. Please no spoilers, as I have yet to read any but all but one of them. But yeah, I'm fairly curious what your opinions are. Just no spoilers. Otherwise, let's see, what should we put? You know what, there's a lot of horror in here. Let's do the skull. Let's put a skull emoji if you've made it this far. Otherwise, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you have yet to do so already, subscribe. Yeah, and I hope that you were in the mental mindset to enjoy your reading. I will see you in another video very soon. Cheers.